Mezo itself is a Cosmos-based chain, which allows us to sort of maximize and accelerate the decentralization and open source and kind of tap into the benefits and also keep kind of that neutrality, right? Because a lot of the times Bitcoiners are tend to be allergic to, an EVM or Ethereum-based system. So for us, that's one of the design decisions we made is, Cosmos stack is much more neutral and Bitcoin aligned from an infrastructure standpoint. But then on top, we have a wrapper that allows you to plug into the liquidity in EVM systems, which is where a lot of this activity is happening, in DeFi and crypto in general. And a lot of the innovation is occurring on the financial side. And so kind of pairing these two mechanism designs together or system designs together, Cosmos infrastructure with an EVM kind of plugin allows us to unlock kind of a way for folks to stake their Bitcoin on Mezo, which is why we have this sidechain set up. So you can actually stake your Bitcoin on Mezo and earn native Bitcoin rewards on that. And the reason why we're able to do this or how the yield is or the rewards are generated is from activity on the chain. So people using the chain are spending in Bitcoin. So the entire system is Bitcoin all the way down. There's no alternative token or anything like that you're spending. So the gas asset, if you will, is Bitcoin. And when you transact, whether it's on a DeFi app or like a game or, even spending and we have the ability for you to issue gift cards and use your Bitcoin in the real world. You can, shop, do things in e-commerce right now. So anytime someone does something in any of those categories, they're spending a little bit of Bitcoin. And that goes to the network that pays out to the validators as well as anyone who's staking on the chain itself and wants to participate in these economies.
Want to shift directions to MUSD, which is, Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. So how does MUSD fit into Mezo's economic model? How should the audience think about that?
Yeah, so MUSD is our flagship product on top of Mezo that we built at Thesis. And the vision for MUSD is the Bitcoin mortgage. We have this sort of opportunity in the market right now where you can enable or unlock a way for you to use your Bitcoin in the real world while keeping and maintaining your equity or your upside. So, and that's one of the things that, I think a lot of people right now with, Bitcoin's hitting all-time highs in the market. Lots of great tailwinds from a regulatory and kind of institutional standpoint coming into the space. A lot of folks just want to hold their Bitcoin, right? But hey, wouldn't it be nice if you could actually, keep holding your Bitcoin and also get some utility out against it without taking much credit risk, if at all, right? And so that's sort of the driving factor behind MUSD and the spirit of that. And so right now you can actually deposit your Bitcoin on Mezo. It's live on mainnet as of last week. We announced the Bitcoin base, and you can borrow against your Bitcoin in MUSD at 1% rates right now. So quite favorable. And MUSD you can take and use in different applications on Mezo, as well as you could take it off chain and use it in a few select venues right now for shopping and kind of e-commerce type experiences, and as well as use it in broader DeFi. So, the Ethereum ecosystems, maybe we'll bring it to Solana, Sui, as well as some other ecosystems that are pretty thriving right now. But yeah, thinking about, kind of the core use cases of MUSD, it's really unlocking spending payments and then yield as well.
And a lot of the folks that, listen in would look at, sort of stablecoins and ask themselves, okay, great, for this given design, how does like a one-to-one peg get maintained sort of to the US dollar? In that regard, right, if we just sort of like take a very big step back and look at it from like 40,000 feet, most people view Bitcoin, as a pretty highly volatile asset relative to other things out there, like treasuries and so forth. What are the forces at play, for MUSD in terms of keeping it as a stable peg 1-to-1 to the US dollar, and how should the audience rationalize that?
So first off, MUSD is 100% Bitcoin backed when you take it out. So when you the user experiences, when you come to Mezo, you can open up the MUSD application, which is, go basically borrow is what you're doing, and deposit Bitcoin into a contract, which is on the chain. So it's not being held by a centralized custodian. It's being held by the chain itself, which right now is secured by 21 validators. So in essence, it's a decentralized custodial model for your Bitcoin that sits there on chain. So you control the keys and the custody of those assets. You're putting it in escrow on the chain, but you have access to it at all times. And then you can mint MUSD against that amount up to 90% LTV. So we think that's pretty competitive in terms of what the market allows. We recommend probably more like 50 to 60% just to, account for some of that volatility. But we certainly have folks that are, a little more aggressive in maybe the risk appetite and are going closer to 90% for their MUSD issuance. And when you issue MUSD, so just to be clear, as the depositor, you are also the borrower. Okay. So you are minting MUSD against your Bitcoin, and that MUSD shows up in your account, and you can take that and go do things with it on chain, earn yield, spend it, whatever you want to do. And you're locking in that 1% interest rate when you mint that. So that won't stay that forever, but right now, because we just launched, we have, a pretty aggressive growth roadmap looking ahead. And so we wanted to offer an extremely favorable and competitive rate to folks, for access to this around the world. And that 1% is paid to the network, and there's no tenor or agreed payback period.